Hi and welcome back to my channel. I'm Food Lady Dominique and today we're going to be working on Easter dinner. Spring is the renewal of life. That's the time that it is. And whether you celebrate Easter, spring equinox, Ostara, Passover, or something else, or none of the above, it's a great time to have a celebration dinner. And traditional Piemontese Easter dinner for our family is a roasted leg of lamb, which I love. However, I also love saucier meat dishes, and also leg of lamb can tend to be a little expensive. So I've come up with a different lamb leg dinner that is inspired both by my Piemontese roots and by Moroccan tagines, and it uses lamb shank instead of leg of lamb. So lamb shanks you will find at least for $2 a pound less than leg of lamb, and sometimes even more. So it's a great option. Lamb shanks are a little bit lower on the leg of the lamb, and they have more connective tissue. So the best way to cook them is to cook them low and slow, or because I'm impatient and I never have the time to do it in the morning, I pressure cook them. And the best thing to do is also to get a marinade on them before, 4 hours before at least, if you can, and the best thing is to do it overnight. So I got them marinating yesterday, and here's how we make the marinade. The marinade for my Easter lamb shank is a mix of the Piemontese pesto called bagna verde, which is basically made with parsley and capers, and then combining in some of the elements that I really love from Moroccan tagines. So let's go. First of all, you use 2 bunches of parsley, and I just chop it coarsely from the bunch, leaving the bigger, coarser stems. So I do have stems in here, but I don't want all of the coarser ones. Then about an inch of fresh ginger, and I'm going to chop that up as well, but I wanted to show you about the size that it is. Then 4 to 5 cloves of garlic. It just depends how big they are. 2 tablespoons of capers. And then 1 teaspoon of cumin and 3 teaspoons of dried oregano. First, we're going to chop this up a little bit. Then we're going to add in some honey. 2 tablespoons of honey. And I'm just eyeballing this. And 1/3 of a cup of lemon juice. These are the inspirations from Moroccan cooking. And we're gonna mix this up again. Bring everything down from the sides. And then we are going to add extra virgin olive oil. So I added a little bit at a time while the Cuisinart's going, until I get kind of a creamy consistency. It's about 2 to 3 tablespoons. That looks good. Let me show you what that looks like. So you've got a really nice, well-chopped and kind of creamy consistency. So you'll notice that I also have 1.5 teaspoons of salt. I am not putting this into the marinade yet. I am going to first put salt on the meat, and then whatever I've got left, I'm going to put into the marinade. So I'm going to move everything around so that we can get to putting this onto the lamb shanks. Okay, now we're going to salt them. And now we're going to add the rest of the salt to the marinade. What you want to do is you want to get Italian with it. So you're going to pour some in, and then you're not going to use all of it, because you'll see how we're going to use this marinade tomorrow as well You want to massage the marinade. What you're really doing is you're massaging it into those holes that you made. Because massaging it, no amount of massaging it is going to get it into the meat. But it's going to make it into those holes, and when you leave this for 4 to 6 hours, or better yet, overnight, the way I'm leaving it, you have a better chance of getting all of those flavors in. So meat is marinated, it's going to get covered and into the fridge, and I'll see you tomorrow. The lamb shanks have been in the fridge since yesterday at about midday. And as you can see, they're nicely covered with the marinade. The first thing that we want to do is we want to sear the outside. It'll get a beautiful caramelized flavor to them. Down below, you can see the instructions in terms of time and temperature if you're going to slow cook them in a pot like this, or if you're going to slow cook them in the oven in a covered, Dutch oven is best, but you can do any kind of covered pot. Either way, you're going to want to sear them. So you're either going to sear them on a pan on the stove. If you're using a Dutch oven to cook them in, sear them directly in the Dutch oven so that they've got all that flavor in there. Or what's great is my pressure cooker has a searing capacity, so I'm going to do it all in one pot. First, you're going to go in with your olive oil, and you're going to do about a tablespoon and a half, and then a half tablespoon of butter. What's great is that the olive oil will keep the butter from burning. You can hear the bubbling of the butter and the oil. And let's get these searing. I've got 4 lamb shanks here. So I'm gonna have to do them a little bit at a time, 2 at a time. So while we wait, I'm gonna tell you what I have here that I'm going to use in the cook. I've got a cut up apple, and it's just a golden delicious apple. I cut it up and I leave the skin on because I really like the flavor that it gives, and I like that kind of extra crunch of skin that's going to be in there. Then cleaned cipollini onions and cleaned red pearl onions. I'm actually going to only put half of these in, a little less than half, and keep the other for the roasted veggies that I'm going to make. And then a cup of cut up celery and cut up carrots, half and half. And that's all going to go in with some red wine and some water and a little bit more of the marinade. So we'll get that going. Let's sear all of them first, and we'll be ready to start the cook. All right, I think we've got some good color. See, really you're just trying to get a little bit of the caramelized fat, a little bit of burning the fat, just a little bit, and it makes a great flavor. Okay, so I'm turning off the sear mode, and now what we want to do is we want to deglaze. Basically, we want to just make sure that all of those nice, slightly burnt bits, caramelized bits, get into the sauce. And also what we want to do here is we want to cook out the alcohol from the wine. It makes a better sauce when you don't have that alcohol pressure cooking in there. So to that, still a hot pot, you're going to pour about 3/4 of a cup of red wine. And always use a wine that you would drink. Cooking wine, you know, just the cheap cooking wine, the point is it's cheap, it doesn't taste very good, you wouldn't drink it, and it's going to make your sauce taste so-so. And okay, so it's nice and deglazed, and make sure that everything comes off the pot. And if you're doing it in a separate pot on the stove, do that, and then take all of this juice and put it in whatever stock pot or slow cook pot you're going to cook the lamb shanks in. Okay, now I'm going to turn this back on to sear, just so it gets some of the heat and it draws out the alcohol, which you've already done a bit just by pouring it into a hot pot, but let's do that a little bit more. And then right now, we're gonna put in the other ingredients. Carrots and celery go in first. You want those at the bottom so that they're really cooking into the liquid and cooking down into a stock. Then you wanna put your lamb shanks back in. And what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna put 2 of them and then put in some of the other ingredients. All right. Okay. Oh, and you know what I forgot? My goodness. For another little bit of sweetness, again, that's the Moroccan influence, is some golden raisins. And I use the Hunza golden raisins, which they're golden raisins from the Tibetan mountains. They have a little bit more body to them, a little less sweetness, and a great flavor. And they're a superfood. So let's do a handful. Now, we've got the other 2 lamb shanks in, and we're gonna go in with the rest of the vegetable. We now want to put the rest of the marinade. All right. Then I'm going to add another couple of spoonfuls of the marinade. Last thing is a cup of water so that you make a really beautiful broth right in here. And a big pinch of salt. We are ready to start the pressure cook. On this machine, the bone-in pressure cooking time is 50 minutes. I actually increase it to about an hour because of the fact that the lamb shanks are more connective tissue. So you want to give them a little bit more time. Increase the time to an hour and start. So while this is cooking, I'm gonna reset and we're gonna put together the vegetables. And in my case, the quinoa, but you can do the same thing that I'm gonna be doing with rice. I'll see you in a minute. We are going to put together gli intorni, the side dishes. What we're going to have in this meal is roasted vegetables, roasted baby potatoes, and quinoa. Start with 2 non-stick pans. And even though they're non-stick, you're gonna wanna put some olive oil on the bottom, first of all for taste, and then also just in case you really don't want anything to stick. So I've already put the olive oil on the bottom of this, and then I cut the baby potatoes into little pieces, leaving some bigger, some smaller, you know, a little bit together. And the reason why I do them in 2 separate pans, if you've got a great big pan, you can also do it in 1 pan, but I like the baby potatoes to be separate and not to have the juices of the vegetables, because then they roast up and they get a nicer outside, a crispier outside. So here we're gonna put our olive oil. Make sure that you've got olive oil everywhere. And we are going to use 2 chopped zucchinis, 1 package of grape tomatoes, just washed. And you're gonna mix these up so that all of the juices of the different vegetables come together. 1 chopped bell pepper, and you can go for orange, yellow, red, play with the colors. And the red pearl onions that we saved before, and I've cut them in half so that they roast a little bit better. And then some cut up ricotta salata. You can also use feta cheese. So I do about 3/4 of a cup, maybe 2/3 of a cup. There we go. Now, over all of this, some salt, and here I'm using some Himalayan pink salt because it's quite minerally, so it gives it a great flavor. And then we're going to take, and I'll use one of these bowls, we're going to take our marinade, and we're going to take half of it, yeah, about 2 big tablespoons, and put in 2 tablespoons of olive oil. Here we go. The beautiful flavors of the parsley and the lemon and the garlic and capers in here. And we're just going to drizzle over everything. These go into the oven at 375 for about 40 to 45 minutes. Okay, while that's cooking, the reason why I like to use quinoa, first of all, it's a superfood, great amount of nutrition in there. Secondly, it gives me the feel of couscous, like in a Moroccan dish. And I can't really eat couscous because of the gluten in it, so I like this option. You're going to do the exact same thing whether you're using arborio rice, brown rice, or the other kind of quinoa. It's just that you're going to use different amounts of water. With arborio rice, it's 1-to-1. With brown rice, it's 2-to-1. I've got 1.5 cups of quinoa here, and we're going to put in 3 cups of water. Now notice that my 3rd cup is not fully up there because I like my quinoa slightly al dente, just like I like my Italian rice. Then you're going to put in the rest of the marinade and a 1/2 tablespoon of butter. We're going to put this on the stove, bring it up to a boil, and boil it covered for about 5 minutes. Then bring it down, all the way down to the lowest low simmer, and you just keep it there and watch it while it cooks slow, and make sure that every 5 minutes you go down and you see how it is on the bottom, that it's not sticking. Then as you see the water disappearing, that's when you taste it. If it's good for you, go ahead. If you feel like it's a little too al dente, add a little bit of water, keep simmering low and slow like that until it's the right consistency for you, and then it's done. Okay, this is gonna go on the stove, everything's cooking, and then we're gonna see the final results. See you in about, 40 minutes. All the different parts of dinner are ready. You can see how the vegetables are beautifully roasted. The lamb shank. Here we go. Oh my gosh. You can barely pick it up because it falls off the bone. Take a look at this. I don't even need a knife. It breaks right off. That's amazing. The way that I suggest plating all this wonderfulness is put a bit of the quinoa on the bottom. It's nice and separated. Then just break away some of this amazing meat right in the middle. And you can ask people, would you like part of the bone? Because eating the marrow out of these bones is so great. And cooking it this way leaches a lot of the collagen out of the bone into that sauce, and that's great nutrition for you, for your joints, for your skin. It's going to be for me, so I'm going to put a bone on that, some vegetables on one side, and a little bit of potatoes on the other side, some of this wonderful sauce with the onions, and pour it right over the top. And here I have the apple and one of the bigger onions. So basically, this is my Piemontese tagine. The smell is unbelievable. And And I'm gonna taste a little bit of it right now because I've been dying to for hours at this point. You don't even have to chew the meat. It's amazing. And remember, this is a meat that has a lot of connective tissue and usually can be really tough, not made like this. So here's a different take on a traditional Italian Easter dinner. Don't forget to subscribe, like, and click the notification button. And please comment down below and let me know what your traditional Easter dinners are like. And if you tried this and you liked it. And it looks like one of my cats wants some as well. Buon appetito and happy renewal of life.